Hey guys, welcome to the F- Christmas special, where today we'll be analyzing the Christmas special.
F-, what do you think you're doing?
For those of you guys just joining the channel, this is A+, my landlord.
And Lord and personal savior, but you didn't answer my question. What do you think you're doing?
An episode analysis, kind of like how I always do.
Yeah, but this is not a Christmas special like you just said.
Well, it's not technically a Christmas special, but it's a Christmas-adjacent pony holiday.
Well, by that logic, you did the Halloween-adjacent episode doing a Halloween gimmick. Why aren't you doing a Christmas gimmick for this one? We gotta do something to mark it off the holiday. Do a whole bit wearing a Santa hat and chocolate chip cookies and milk. This instance where I'm kicking you out.
I totally would, but first of all, I'm not a huge fan of chocolate chip cookies. And second of all, I'm lactose intolerant. And the last time I tried to drink milk, it swelled up my breathing and I ended up in the emergency room.
But come on, it's Christmas. You gotta do something for the occasion or else, you're evicted.
I mean, I guess I could put on some Christmassy background music, but like I said, milk would kill me.
Ugh. Need to remind you that the girl that you like has left you undelivered for 2 months and counting now?
Why won't you give me a chance when I'm so perfect?
Now get on with the episode and make me some money. As for me, I've got some girlfriends I've got to cheat on.
Okay, for starters, don't ask me why they're headed away from the castle, but in the next shot, they do a complete 180 and start heading towards that direction. Fantastic. Off to a great start already. But speaking of trains, this is a different one than the one that we saw previously. Who knows why this is the case? Which one of these trains do you guys prefer? Because the aspects I like about this train is how it's more pony-ish, obviously. But the negative aspect is there's a bunch of questions that arise, such as, do these guys get tired at all? Or are they capable of running at this exact speed for the entire trip? More importantly, do they get paid per distance or per hour? Because if it's per hour, they might as well just walk slowly to the destination. Or perhaps they get paid by the weight of the passengers on the train, because it would be no fair for them to sometimes have to pull like heavier ponies and sometimes smaller ponies, yet get paid the same amount. Okay, I concede. I'm probably the only person in existence who has ever wondered that, but still! The good thing about this one is that, well, it does solve all the questions I was asking about the other one. But on the bad side, it obviously loses some of the equestrian charm because it gets rid of the horses. And at a certain point, we might as well just be living in a human world with human technology populated by ponies instead of, a pony world with pony technology, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of this being a pony world. Let me know what you guys think, because I'm honestly kind of split on this. Either way, while the train might be different, what remains the same is how, while riding it, Fluttershy is all...
I feel like shouting.
Which is pretty similar to her other attempts to be loud so far.
Yay. Too loud. I am so frustrated I could just scream.
This is cool and all how they're keeping Fluttershy's character consistent. It would just suck if this episode, dealt with a stage play that she's acting in front of a bunch of people, with there being episodes later about how she's too scared to do things in front of people. That would just be silly and make me take back this compliment.
I have an idea. Let's play I Spy with My Little Eyes We Walk.
Wow, I wonder if they also have the I Spy books or something similar to that in this world.
I spy an 8-foot candy cane.
8-foot candy cane? While this measurement is instrumental in giving us an idea of how big these ponies are, which is useful since if this candy cane is 8 feet tall, counting these pixels would put Scootaloo at 2'1", and putting her next to an adult pony like Fluttershy, we can conclude that the average pony is about 3'5", which is cool and all until you use this unit of measurement where you compare the size of a bunny in the pony world and one in the human world, and use that to see the size relation to ponies and humans. That would put human Fluttershy at like 6 feet tall. I mean, okay. But to reel it back a little, how do they even have feet as a unit of measurement? Ponies don't have feet. The closest thing to that is when we hear the word foot be used in Owl's Well That Ends Well in relation to Spike.
How did you guys know where I was? It was your ketchup-covered feet. Aloysius discovered your footprints, and we followed them all the way to the cave.
But surely they're not using dragon feet as a unit of pony measurement. On one hand, this would have made so much more sense if they just said, 8 hooves tall, since that would have been in character with the show, and wouldn't have human Fluttershy absolutely mog me in height. But on the other hand, I do like having official real-world measurements like this, because it's fun. So I'm kind of split on this. Let me know what you guys think about this as well.
I spy some pony eating a gingerbread house.
Wow, these guys seem to enjoy Pinky being goofy while playing I Spy. It sure would suck if there was a scene that completely contradicts this later on.
Pony up for game of
At least that was just one example of this contradict.
I spy with my little eye a rainbow.
Great. We're playing that game now?
No,
Oh, great theme song. Please save me.
My little...
Okay, I know I was calling for the theme song, but... Now, this might sound like a bit of a nitpick, but it would have been really cool if they did like a Christmassy version of the theme song. As in, if they coated Ponyville in snow with the ponies in winter getup. Actually, no, they wouldn't have even needed to do that, since none of the ponies in this episode are in winter getup anyway. But I still think it would have been really cool if the grounds and the roofs were covered in snow with maybe some Christmas decorations on the buildings. Obviously, them not doing this isn't an indicator of like this episode's quality or anything. And I'm not even bringing this up as criticism. Obviously not, that's stupid. But I just do think it's a little bit abrupt and jarring how everything's covered in winteriness before and after the theme song, especially when in the cold opening, no pun intended, it does show Ponyville coated in snow. So if they did something similar in the theme song, that would have elevated this to like awesome. But oh well, that's just my opinion, you might disagree. Either way, we get introduced to this theater hall, and what the heck is this bandana? It looks so out of place, along with this guy with the hat, especially because later when we see the crowd shot again, they're gone, okay? I mean, what? Oh, great. There's our second big derpy cameo of the episode. Which is cute and all, but I like how the more attention the show is giving derpy, it's kind of, I don't know, depressing in hindsight, knowing that this is all going to culminate in some big controversy very, very soon.
I can't believe that Princess Celestia chose us to put on the most important play of the season.
Then we see what's going on backstage, and I'd say it's a little disgusting how we get to see the inside of Fluttershy's eyelids, but I'll say it's not as disgusting as they're growing extra wings here. Man. Anyways, this is pretty much the only scene in the entire episode where we see the main six interact out of character.
The Hearthwarmony pageant is about harmony and friendship.
shut the
And I think it's pretty cool how, for example, we get this. How the way that Twilight yells this is a callback to the Ticketmaster. That's pretty cool. And on the topic of continuity, there's this interpretation I ran across that this episode actually takes place before winter wrap-up from season 1. Because judging by how these two are the only 2 episodes in the first 3 seasons of the show that take place within wintertime, it would make sense for these episodes to be back-to-back in order to not make the first 3 seasons span 3 years in universe time, which would be great since that would solve why the Cutie Mark Crusaders seem to be stuck in the same class for 3 years. So I'd agree with this. But what's funny is how the stained glass in this room depict the main six's ventures with not only Nightmare Moon, but with Discord, which would obviously place this episode after the return of Harmony, which this timeline here neglects. Back to square one, I guess. To be fair, I don't know if that breaks this entire guy's post, which would be a shame if it does, since this does really look interesting. But it seems as if I'm going to have to eventually form my own idea of a chronological order of the episodes in the future. But that whole thing aside, just looking at the inclusion of the stained glass on its own merits, I'm glad that the people working on the show were taking care to have some sense of continuity.
Once upon a time, long before the peaceful rule of Celestia, and before ponies discovered our beautiful land of Equestria.
Okay, we've established that this story takes place long before Celestia. Got it. Hopefully there's nothing to contradict that later on in the episode.
Each of the 3 tribes, the Pegasi, the Unicorns, and the Earth Ponies.
Anywho, here we are shown what the roles of the 3 pony races were. Earth ponies provided food, the Pegasi controlled the weather,
But they demanded something in return.
and the unicorns raised the sun and moon.
For day and night.
I think it's kind of interesting how if we take a look at the show Bible for the season, Goddess Lauren Faust actually had particular notes about these 3 pony types, which I think is pretty relevant to the discussion here, so let's give it a read, shall we? 1. Earth ponies. The most populous type of pony. They are also the simplest looking. They have no magic like the other types of ponies, but even so, they have the greatest talent for caring for nature, hardy and resourceful. They've learned how to live without magic and are better than any other pony type at growing plants. Whether it be beautiful flowers or crops, and they excel at caring for animals, both real and fantastic. They live in the fields, the plains, the forests, and tend to remain close to the earth. They are quite grounded, both literally and figuratively. So far, it seems as if the roles for the Earth ponies in this episode lines up very well with Goddess's vision for them. 2. Pegasus ponies. Ponies with feathered wings. The majority of Pegasus ponies live in the ever-morphing city of Cloudsdale in the sky. Pegasus ponies' ability to fly has merited them stewardship of the weather. When the ground is dry, the Pegasus ponies gather to gallop atop the clouds and shake loose the rain to the earth. Like cowboys, they wrangle the clouds from the sky to create a sunny day. They gather the great herds and flap their wings simultaneously to create the wind. Legend holds that Pegasui can create a rainbow solely and completely on their own. Up until recently, this fact was believed to be a myth until one Pegasus pony achieved this miracle, but she only did it once. Yeah, most of that lines up with what we're seeing in the play, but obviously the part about creating rainbows being a myth and only one pony being able to do it, that's been scrapped, obviously, since we see the factory where they make rainbows, and this was obviously alluding to the Sonic Rainboom, which I find kind of interesting because, like I said, this was the Season 2 version of the show Bible, not the Season 1 one, which we can see was updated 2 months after the Sonic Rainboom episode came out. So, And finally, we got 3 unicorn ponies. Where Earth ponies inhabit the earth and Pegasus ponies populate the sky, unicorn ponies hail from the mountains. Each and every unicorn has magical powers that emanate from their horn, a unicorn's crowning glory. These individual powers usually coincide with each unicorn's individual personality, talent, and cutie mark. Most unicorns tend to gravitate to the more metropolitan of the pony dwellings, like Equestria's awe-inspiring capital and the home of the Princess Canterlot. Canterlot is a hub for unicorns to practice their unique spellcasting skills. They are often the scholars, artists, and mages of pony society. Unlike the 2 previous pony types, this one doesn't really have too much bearing with this episode's plot, because back then it was said that the unicorns were the ones raising the sun and moon, but obviously here the princess already exists. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that little detour to behind-the-scenes information to the show. Plus, it's historical to the show's development, which I'm trying to document with the series, obviously, so yeah. But then they fight amongst each other because a weird winter shows up and they stop supplying each other with what they used to.
So it was decided that a grand summit would be held to figure out a way to cope with the blizzard. Each tribe sent their leaders.
Who organized this meeting? Especially because there's no mediator between these guys. I guess they somehow calmed down for enough time to hear each other out to have a meeting like this. Now, this would usually piss me off, but the roasts are on fire here.
We're not making it snow. It must be the unicorns. They're doing it with their freaky magic. Unlike you Pegasi ruffians, if you non-Earths aren't gonna stop using your weirdo powers, then I'm just plumb out of ideas.
What a shocker! An Earth pony with no idea. You're not the boss of me, you royal sneak.
Damn! That was just bam, 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 roast after roast. I like this little gag of Princess Platinum putting her crown on upside down, especially when they went through the effort of animating her ears flopping down, but it magically goes right side up in the next shot. Wow, fantastic. Anyways, when the leaders get home, they talk to their advisors, who are shown to be far more reasonable than the actual leaders, such as how Clover the Clever says,
Did the other pony tribe see reason as I predicted?
and Smart Cookie says,
So you mean the other tribes didn't come around? Shoot, I really thought we could get through to them.
As for why these guys did not tag along to the meeting when it seemed like it was basically their suggestion, who knows? Well, they might have needed to stay back at their respective kingdoms to keep watch over their subjects back home. Well, later, we see both the leaders and the secretaries leave for an even longer amount of time than this one meeting, so I don't think so.
Let's get a move on. Hut, 1, hut, 2.
I was elected because I know how to think outside the box, which means I can also think inside the chimney. Can you think inside a chimney?
How did this dummy get elected as leader again? At least with Commander Hurricane, he's obviously a very strong leader, so it makes sense why he's in power, because obviously people would want to vote for a strong leader who gives off the impression that he knows what he's doing. But come on, at least we got these very cute frames of her looking silly. Ladies and gentlemen, your new profile pictures.
What could go wrong?
How the chimney wasn't also filled with snow, I have no idea. What I do have an idea of, though, is how these pony tribes go out to look for their own land to escape the hurricane.
I think I'm gonna call this new place, Dirtville.
How about Earth?
What's with this Earth name suggestion? Earlier, Chancellor Puddinghead said that the planet they're on is Earth.
The Earth is round. There is no up or down.
So why is she saying she wants to name this new land the same name of the planet they're on? I guess Commander Hurricane was right when he said this earlier.
What a shocker! An Earth pony with no ideas.
We then get what might be the best piece of dialogue in this entire episode.
Instead of beautiful, it was blizzardy. Instead of wonderful, it was wintry. Instead of spectacular, it was snowtacular. Instead of...
We get it! Move on!
That's funny. I mean, I guess it's a little disrespectful to yell that during a play, but like, come on, that's pretty funny. But speaking of the crowd, it seems as if there's a unicorn guard stomping on Sassaflash. I thought the job of being a royal guard including protecting their subjects, not actively harming them. To make this long story short, okay, to be fair, it's a short story, but they make it long. So to make this long story appropriately timed, the tribe leaders start arguing, which causes these Wendigos from earlier to cause a hurricane again. With the solution to this problem being their assistant people be friendly with each other. How sweet. But on the topic of Wendigos, since this episode doesn't go out of its way to fully explain what they are, only saying,
They're winter spirits that feed off fighting and hatred. The more hate the spirit feels, the colder things become.
It's pretty neat doing extra research and seeing that they're derived from Wendigos, which are basically creatures that feed on greed and drive people into cannibalism, and that lines up with the behavior of these early ponies, with the tribes all being selfish and only looking out for themselves.
Cared not for what befell the other tribes, but only for their own welfare.
That, and along with the fact that 2/3 of these guys all went hungry since the earth ponies were hogging all the vegetation.
All I want to know is why the Earth ponies are hogging all the food. We're not hogging all the food, you are! Oh wait, you're right, it's us.
This probably means that the Wendigos succeeded, and that the Pegasus and Unicorn ponies actually may have resorted to cannibalism as a result.
The Pegasi were hungry.
That's disturbing, but unfortunately makes sense. Especially when judging by context clues, we can conclude that this play is obviously a heavily condensed and shortened version of the actual historical event.
And so, each leader encountered obstacles along the way. But eventually, they all arrived in the new and wondrous land.
So these leaders, along with the head secretaries, must have left all their subjects back home to starve for however long their journeys took. But on a positive note, to tie in with the solution of their troubles, in Wendigo mythology, their weakness is fire, which explains why this is what they're defeated with.
All through the night, the three ponies kept the fire of friendship alive by telling stories to one another and by singing songs.
Well, either way, what a heartwarming episode that lives up to the name of the holiday.
The warmth of the fire and the singing and laughing reached the leaders, and their bodies began to thaw, and it even began to melt their hearts.
I'm so glad that this did not contain any weird discrepancies that we're gonna have to go out of our way to spend time to...
The three leaders agreed to share the beautiful land and live in harmony ever afterwards. And together, they never...
Okay. If this flag has Celestia and Luna on it, that means they were already princesses of Equestria! The flag, or banner, or whatever you want to call this, means that Celestia and Luna were already princesses who raised the sun and moon at this point. Which, putting the contradictory statement from earlier aside, if there's this much division between the three races of ponies, wouldn't that mean that they're being terrible leaders by not doing anything about this? Or letting literally their entire population die of hypothermia? Or letting all their subjects be tormented by these Wendigos? Was this before or after they fought Discord? Wouldn't it make much more sense if this land that they just established had Celestia and Luna pop up afterwards? Now, there is the cop-out that this flag was only used as a creed of liberty by the main six, just to tie the play in with modern times for the audience, and to make it clear what's going on here, rather than them using a prop of the flag of the time. I think that's a little dumb. While yes, we do know that this play isn't 1,000,000,000% accurate based on the fact that Commander Hurricane was a man but was still played by Rainbow Dash.
Well, aren't you curious about how it went?
Oh, Commander Hurricane, sir, how did it go, sir?
However, that was obviously only because Princess Celestia tasked the main six to host this play, therefore they just used themselves in it. Why should we expect it to expand to the flag as well? Especially when we've seen Twilight put a lot of thought into these little historical accuracies before.
Star Swirl, the bearded. Commendable costume. Now even got the bells right.
Thank you.
Now, what's incredibly not helpful is this shot where the flag is raised. The backdrop is obviously the painted set version and not the flashback version, which I guess would imply this wasn't the flag for the time. Well, sorta. For some reason, the actual raising of the flag is the flashback version, since we can see that the background is real, but inconveniently, when the shot actually reveals the flag, the background is now the arts and crafts version. Who does that? I need my mood regulator. I think we're good now. What's with the flag design? Do the 40-some odd stars on it represent different areas of Equestria like they do on the US flag? Or is this an arbitrary number? Well, it's probably not the different states one because the Pegasus flag also had stars on it. And there's no way that they'd be honoring non-Pegasus nations in their flags, right? I don't know, because the unicorn one also had a bunch of rhombuses and guess what? The amount of rhombuses are the exact same as the stars on these ones. So maybe this number is not arbitrary? Now, I know it does no good to anybody for me to mope around like this, so let me just take one more small sip of my mood regulator, and we can go back to our regularly scheduled program. Let's just move on. If you guys have any theories, leave them in the comments. So, we're treated to I'll just say it, a boring song.
The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we cannot drift apart.
Strict musicality aside, I think one of the reasons this song doesn't click with me personally at least is because it's sung by a choir and not by any of the character voices, so it really just comes across as stock music. I can't believe this is what composer Daniel Ingram considered to be the brony anthem of the show. What was wrong with considering the theme song as the brony anthem? Also, why are these bells moving so fast like this? That's terrifying. What else is terrifying is how, despite this entire crowd being full of a bunch of clones, there is one instance of Cherry Berry who happens to have Berry Shine's tail instead of her tail. Also, there's only one Berry Shine in the entire room. Huh? But on that note, wow, I sure do love how the crowd parting in the middle keeps disappearing and appearing. And how the Cutie Mark Crusaders also keep appearing and disappearing. What? Anywho, we then get some reiteration that Celestia was originally the one who put the main six to put this play on.
We should be so honored that Princess Celestia chose us. She must really think we exemplify what good friends are.
Yet, she's nowhere to be found in the entire episode. How supportive. Honestly, before I decide to watch this episode again for this retrospective, all I could remember about it was, it was boring. But now that I watch it again with a more analytical eye where I'm giving every episode a fair shot to impress or disappoint with an open mind, okay, I will say that compared to the one other episode Meriwether Williams wrote for the show so far, The Mysterious Mare-Duel, this episode hasn't gotten anywhere near the same amount of infamy as that one. But that's probably because nobody has any strong feelings about this episode one way or the other. Which kind of makes sense because, honestly, this episode is just, if I just put in one word, inoffensive. Probably because there wasn't much room to screw up character development or character dynamics like her other episode was criticized for. Because, like I said earlier, there's only a limited amount of time where the main six are acting out of character. Because this whole thing takes place in a play instead of reality, and the characters are playing a character, there's not much to screw up the actual original characters like people complained about the Mysterious Mare-Duel doing. However, that in conjunction with the fact that the entire plot was pretty much narrated beat for beat by Spike, with not much subtlety in story, nor like character interactions, there's not much for me to really analyze. Not to say that this is bad by any means, I think the episode did have a really good lesson about not hating each other.
And now our bodies will become as cold as our hearts. All because we were foolish enough to hate.
Which is the answer to most problems in life, which I would think. And like I alluded to earlier, like 2/3 of this entire script are just roast after roast after roast.
Okay, this is getting old.
Hey! You invaded our territory!
Finders keepers, losers whippers.
Oh, this is simply taking forever. My hooves are killing me. How long have we been walking for?
About 5 minutes, Your Highness.
Which is funny, but still, in that vein, there's not much to really analyze because all the lines are all jokes instead of character interactions. But at least it does do some world building by showing us how Equestria was founded. So it's more of a lore drop than it is any real advancement on anything. But the lore that it does give it just raises a bunch of questions like I brought up about the flag thing. I know there's the official Celestia and Luna journal thing that like serves as somewhat of a spiritual successor to this episode that offers more information about the founders of Equestria and how the princesses became princesses. But this book is going to require information from season 4 to fully understand, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If I could rewrite this episode, I don't know if this will fix everything, but I would probably have Celestia and Luna already have been the princess and have them be the mediators at the meeting. That way they can say that they at least tried to get the subjects to unite and not fight each other. And the flag having Celestia and Luna on it would have made things come full circle with them originally trying to get them to make up with each other. I think that would have solved everything. But anyways, what's kind of interesting is how, based on these original plans for Season 2, where we can see earlier names of the episode titles, such as how The Return of Harmony was previously known as Amazing Adventure, and before that it was considered to be Seeds of Chaos, and how May the Best Pet Win was originally considered as No Tank You, and how Mysterious Mare-Duel was originally titled The Masked Avenger, that's quite something, or how Secret of My Excess was previously known as Attack of the 50-Foot Dragon, which when that was previously known as Giving Dangerously. But with all that said, this episode was originally titled Christmas Special, or at least that was the placeholder name, which is kind of strange because this episode was obviously not about Christmas. It was about hearth swarming, and I'm assuming this was because the team for the show was tasked by the network to make an episode for the holiday season, and not necessarily because the My Little Pony staff had any super clear idea of what they wanted to do. But I wonder if after getting that task, if they ever considered making a Christmas special before they came up with hearth swarming, which would once again put into question how there are references to Jesus Christ in this world populated by ponies. Then again, if we look at the previous generation, G3 involved actual Christmas, so then again, we see that they have these festive trees topped with a star, which in real life started off because it represents the Star of Bethlehem. So before my brain melts, I think we can leave this episode here for now. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.